The revelation that humans had been pretending to be weak sent shockwaves through every corner of galactic civilization. Within hours of Dr. Yun's presentation, governments across the galaxy called emergency sessions species that had condescended to humans for decades suddenly realized they had been talking down to beings who could have conquered them at any moment. President Nam Su Bin of the Human Colonial Federation sat in her office on Earth watching the chaos unfold across her communication screens. Terrified alien leaders were calling from every major world. Some wanted to negotiate, others demanded explanations. A few made threats that sounded hollow. Now that everyone knew what human weakness really meant, the first major reaction came from the Xanthari Empire, one of the galaxy's oldest and most arrogant civilizations. Emperor Morthic had built his power by conquering weaker species and enslaving them for centuries. The idea that humans had been secretly stronger than his mighty empire filled him with rage and terror. "This is unacceptable," he declared to his war council in the Golden Palace on Xanthar Prime. "Humans are a threat to the natural order of the galaxy. They must be contained before they decide to enslave us all." High General Tok'ran agreed enthusiastically. "Sir, we must form an alliance with other concerned species. If we act quickly, we can surround human space and force them back into submission." The Xanthari Empire reached out to every species that feared human power. Within days, they had formed the Galactic Security Alliance with 12 other governments. The alliance claimed they were protecting the galaxy from human aggression, but everyone knew they were really trying to preserve their own positions of power. But what the alliance leaders did not understand was that humans had been expecting this reaction for 50 years. General Kong Byung-ho had spent his entire career preparing for the day when the galaxy would turn against humanity. Every possible scenario had been studied, every contingency planned. When the alliance moved their combined fleets to surround human space, they thought they were being clever and strategic. What they found waiting for them was something that shattered their understanding of warfare. Human ships had been observing their movements for weeks from positions that should have been impossible to reach. Stealth technology that made their vessels completely invisible to any known sensors had allowed human scouts to monitor every alliance meeting, every military briefing, every strategic decision. Admiral Li Jiangsu commanded the human response fleet, but his ships were nowhere to be seen. The alliance commanders thought they had achieved surprise when they jumped into human space with 2,000 warships ready for battle. Instead, they found Captain Oh Young-min waiting for them in a single small vessel that appeared to be unarmed. "Welcome to human space," Captain Oh said over open communications. "I am here to deliver a message from the Human Government Alliance Fleet Commander." Torkef laughed at the sight of one tiny ship facing his massive armada. "You are outnumbered 2,000 to 1. Human, how dare you speak to us as equals, Captain?" Oh smiled, the same cold smile that was becoming humanity's new trademark. "Commander, your fleet is surrounded. You just cannot see by what the Alliance sensors suddenly came alive with contact alerts showing massive human vessels appearing from every direction. Ships that had been hidden using technology beyond galactic understanding materialized like ghosts, becoming solid. The Alliance fleet found themselves surrounded by forces they had never detected, but that was not the worst surprise. Every major Alliance world received simultaneous visits from human diplomatic vessels that had somehow bypassed all their defenses and appeared in orbit without warning. The same technology that made human ships invisible had allowed them to position forces around every Alliance planet. Defense networks that the Alliance thought were secret revealed themselves to be under human observation and control. Communication systems that carried their most classified information had been monitored by human intelligence for decades. The Alliance leaders sat in their command centers staring at evidence that humans had not just been pretending to be weak. They had been studying every species, learning every secret, and preparing for every possibility. While aliens had been treating humans like amusing pets, humans had been treating the situation like the most complex intelligence operation in galactic history. Emperor Morthak received a personal message from President Nam that made his blood run cold. "Your Majesty," she said, speaking directly to his private communication system that was supposed to be impossible to breach. "We know about every plan you have made, every weapon you have built, every secret you have kept. We have been watching you for 50 years." The screen showed images of Xanthari military bases that were completely classified recordings of private conversations between Alliance leaders, pictures of secret weapons that no human should have known existed. We do not want war, she continued, we never have, but if you force us to fight, we will win so completely and so quickly that the galaxy will never forget the lesson. Every species will see what happens to civilizations that choose aggression over cooperation. The Alliance fleet retreated without firing a single shot. Their commanders realized that fighting humans would not be a war, it would be a massacre. The beings they had thought were primitive farmers were actually the most advanced military force in galactic history, but the damage was done. Trust between humans and the rest of the galaxy had been shattered, and paranoia was spreading like a plague. The Stellar Commerce Guild called emergency meetings as they realized that humans had been secretly controlling galactic trade for decades. Human merchant ships that seemed slow and clumsy had actually been managing supply chains across known space, preventing shortages and economic disasters. The Scientific Academy discovered that research projects they thought were cutting edge had been surpassed by human science years ago. Breakthrough discoveries that alien scientists were proud of turned out to be elementary lessons in human schools. Even worse, species began to question every interaction they had ever had with humans. Had human diplomats been secretly laughing at their ignorance? Had human traders been manipulating their economies? Had human tourists been spying on their cultures? Dr. Shin-Mi Young worked at the human embassy on Corliss Prime, trying to calm the fears of local officials who demanded to know how much human technology had infiltrated their world. The answer was everything, but she could not say that without causing panic. We have always respected your sovereignty, she told the Corliss Council. Our technology was used to help, not to control. But Counselor Varseth was not convinced. How can we trust anything you say now? You have been lying to us for 50 years. What else are you hiding? The question that terrified every species was, what did humans really want? If they had been strong enough to conquer the galaxy for decades, why had they chosen to hide instead? What was their real plan? Some governments tried to ban human citizens from their worlds. Others attempted to seize human property and assets. A few even talked about declaring war, despite knowing how that would end. President Nam watched the chaos spread and made a decision that would define humanity' future relationship with the galaxy. No more half measures, no more gradual revelations. If the galaxy wanted to fear humans, then humans would give them something to really think about. She activated communication protocols that had been prepared for this moment and sent a message to every government, every leader, every citizen in known space. This is President Nam Su Bin of the Human Federation speaking to all inhabitants of the galaxy. She began. Recent events have forced us to reveal truths we had hoped to keep private. We understand that you are afraid. We understand that you feel betrayed. We understand that many of you now see us as a threat. She paused, allowing her words to reach every corner of civilized space. You are right to be afraid, not because we wish you harm, but because you have realized that the foundation of galactic civilization has been built on assumptions that were completely wrong. The galaxy is about to learn that fear was just the beginning. The real changes were yet to come. News of the new Bison battle traveled across the galaxy like wildfire, spreading through dry grass. Emergency meetings were called on every major world as governments tried to understand what had just happened. The weak, harmless humans had just destroyed the most feared military force in known space, and they had made it look easy on the crystal world of Zenth Prime. The collective council gathered in their great hall of mirrors, the blue-skinned leaders who had spent decades lecturing humans about proper technology sat in stunned silence as they watched battle recordings. Their greatest military experts stared at the data with growing horror. This cannot be real, Counselor. Vextar said, his forearms shaking as he spoke. The humans barely understand basic physics. Their ships are slow, their weapons are primitive. This must be some kind of trick. High Counselor Zex ran the recording again for the 5th time, showing human ships moving at speeds that broke every law of physics. He knew the small black vessels had appeared from nowhere, destroyed 300 warships in minutes, and vanished just as quickly. If this is a trick, then it is beyond anything we can comprehend, he whispered. Our sensors confirm everything. The humans have technology that makes our most advanced systems look like stone tools. Meanwhile, on the research station orbiting Kepler 7, Dr. Yoon Hey Jin was preparing for the most important presentation of her life for 30 years she had attended. Scientific conferences where alien researchers had explained basic concepts to her as if she were a child. She had nodded politely while they described theories that human children learned in elementary school, but today was different. Today she would tell the truth. The emergency session of the Galactic Research Council brought together the greatest minds from 47 different species. The massive conference hall buzzed with worried conversations as representatives tried to make sense of recent events. Dr. Yoon walked to the center podium carrying a simple data pad that contained secrets that would change everything. Honored colleagues, she began speaking in perfect galactic standard, her voice calm and clear. I stand before you today to explain what happened at New Bizan and to reveal truths that humanity has kept hidden for 50 years. The hall fell silent as hundreds of alien scientists leaned forward to listen. This small human woman had always seemed so grateful for their guidance, so eager to learn from their superior knowledge. The battle you witnessed was not a fluke or a trick, she continued. It was humanity revealing a fraction of our true capabilities. We have been pretending to be primitive because we did not want to frighten our neighbors. We followed galactic law not because we had to, but because we chose to be good citizens. She activated her datapad and holographic displays filled the air above the audience. The images showed human ships that could travel between galaxies in weeks, technology that could terraform dead worlds in months, cities built inside stars using materials that should not exist for 5 decades, she explained. While you taught us about basic physics, we were secretly developing technology that surpasses anything in known space. While you showed us how to build simple, faster than light drives, we were perfecting engines that could cross the galaxy in days. The audience sat in shocked silence as she revealed the truth about human mining operations that could strip entire asteroid belts in hours, manufacturing systems that could build space stations the size of moons, defensive technology that could protect entire solar systems from any known threat. But the most shocking revelation was yet to come. Dr. Yoon gestured to new images showing massive space creatures that most species had never seen. These beings could devour planets like snacks, but they never threatened populated worlds because humans hunted them down before they could cause damage. The energy storms that occasionally appeared in deep space and then mysteriously vanished, those were redirected by human technology before they could reach inhabited systems. The ancient automated weapons that sometimes activated and then went silent, human teams disabled them using technology that officially did not exist. She showed them recordings of human ships protecting alien colonies from pirates who never reported their defeats, images of human scientists secretly cleaning up radiation from industrial accidents that could have poisoned entire worlds, evidence of human medical teams curing plagues that would have killed millions. While you debated whether to help species in crisis, she said quietly, humans were already saving them. We have been the galaxy's secret guardians for 50 years, protecting civilizations that did not even know they needed protection. The hall erupted in chaos as representatives shouted questions and accusations. Dr. Yoon waited patiently for the noise to die down before continuing. You ask why we hid this from you, she said. The answer is simple. We did not want to rule the galaxy. We wanted to be part of it. We thought it was better to be helpful neighbors than obvious overlords. She paused and looked around the hall at faces filled with fear, confusion, and disbelief. But recent events have forced us to reconsider that position. The attack on New Bizan was not the first time aggressive species have targeted human civilians. They did it because they thought we were weak and helpless. They were wrong. Admiral Song Ki-tae entered the hall wearing the uniform of the human Space Force. For decades he had commanded what everyone thought was humanity. Pathetic excuse for a military, simple patrol ships that barely qualified as armed vessels. Now he stood before the assembly as the leader of the most powerful military force in galactic history. Honored delegates, he said, his voice carrying the authority of someone who commanded unimaginable power. Dr. Yoon has explained our technology. Now let me explain our military capabilities. The holographic displays changed to show human warships that dwarfed anything in known space, weapons that could destroy entire fleets with single shots, defensive systems that could protect star systems from supernova explosions. What you saw at New Bizan was a training exercise, he said calmly. The ships that defeated the hegemony fleet were cadets learning basic combat maneuvers. Our actual military technology is classified, but I can tell you this much: of what you consider impossible, we consider routine. He showed them images of human military bases hidden throughout the galaxy, observation posts that had been watching every major world for decades, listening stations that monitored all communications across civilized space. We know about every government secret, every military plan, every diplomatic negotiation in known space. He continued, we have been protecting the galaxy not just from external threats, but from itself. We have prevented 17 wars, stopped 43 attempted genocides, and quietly eliminated threats that would have destroyed entire civilizations. The audience stared in horrified fascination as they realized the implications. Human had not just been hiding their technology, they had been secretly managing galactic civilization for decades. The small primitive species that everyone pitied and protected had actually been the puppet masters pulling all the strings, and now the puppet masters were revealing themselves. Dr. Yoon returned to the podium for her final statement. We are telling you this now because we believe in honesty and transparency, she said. Humanity has outgrown the need for deception. We are ready to be open partners rather than secret guardians. She looked around the hall at faces filled with fear and uncertainty. We understand that this revelation is frightening. Change always is, but we want you to know that our goals have not changed. We still want peace, cooperation, and prosperity for all species. The only difference is that now you know we have the power to guarantee those things. The session ended in stunned silence as delegates tried to process everything they had learned. The galaxy had just discovered that their weakest members were actually their strongest, that their students were their teachers, that their children were their parents. The age of human pretense was over. The age of human truth had begun, and nothing would ever be the same again. The warning alarm screamed across New Bizan colony as 300 massive warships dropped out of hyperspace like angry metal giants. The ships belonged to the hegemony, a group of 3 alien species that believed in taking what they wanted by force. Their hulls were painted blood red and covered with spikes that served no purpose except to look scary. Colony Administrator Choi Min-jun sat in his command center watching the approaching fleet on his main screen. He looked calm and relaxed, as if 300 enemy warships were just another Tuesday morning problem. His aide Park Ji-won stood beside him, shaking with fear as he counted the massive vessels filling space around their small peaceful colony. Sir, we need to evacuate the civilians, Park whispered, his voice cracked with terror as he watched the hegemony ships move into attack formation. These are the same aliens who destroyed the Zephyrian homeworld last year. They never leave survivors. Min-jun smiled, but it was not the friendly smile that humans usually show to other species. This smile was cold and sharp, like a knife blade hidden in silk. He had been administrator of New Bizan for 15 years, and every single day he had been preparing for this moment. No evacuation, he said quietly. Send a message to the hegemony fleet. Tell them they have one chance to leave our space. If they do not leave in the next 10 minutes, we will make them leave. Park stared at his administrator as if he had gone insane. Sir, we have maybe 50 security guards and some mining equipment. They have 300 warships with planet-cracking weapons. How can we possibly fight them? Min-jun turned to look at his aide, and Park saw something in those eyes that made him step backward. The man he had worked with for years suddenly looked like a completely different person, someone dangerous, someone who had been hiding behind a mask of friendliness for far too long. Park, have you ever wondered why human colonies are always built in the strangest places? Min-jun asked conversationally. We build on asteroids that are hard to reach. We build near dangerous gas giants. We build in systems that other species avoid. Why do you think that I never really thought about it? Park stammered. Min-jun stood up and walked to the window that showed the colony spreading out below them. What looked like simple farming domes and residential areas suddenly seemed different when Park really looked at them. The buildings were too sturdy for civilian use. The power lines were too heavy for normal colony needs. The landing pads were too reinforced for simple cargo ships. Because every human colony is a fortress. Park, every single one. We just hide it very well. The hegemony fleet commander received the human message and laughed so hard he nearly fell out of his command chair. Admiral Morketh was a veteran of dozens of conquest campaigns, and he had never seen anything funnier than weak, primitive humans threatening his mighty fleet. Surrender or be destroyed, the message had said, as if 50,000 human farmers could threaten 300 of the most advanced warships in the galaxy. Admiral Morketh had weapons that could crack planets in half and shields that had never been breached by any known force. "You hear that, crew?" he announced to his bridge staff. "The little humans think they can fight us. Shall we show them what real power looks like?" His weapons officer Torval grinned, showing rows of sharp teeth. "Sir, our scanners show minimal defenses, basic shields, and maybe some mining lasers converted to weapons. This will be over in minutes. Fire at will," Admiral Morketh commanded. "Let us teach these insects their place in the universe." The hegemony fleet opened fire with everything they had. Plasma beams that could melt mountains lanced down toward New Bizon colony, followed by missiles that could destroy city blocks. Enough firepower to turn the entire settlement into smoking crater. The weapons hit the colony, and Admiral Morketh waited to see the familiar sight of destruction and flames. Instead, his tactical officer started making confused noises while staring at his instruments. "Sir, something is wrong," Torval said slowly. "Our weapons are not getting through. They are hitting some kind of shield system. That is impossible," the Admiral snapped. "Our sensors showed basic defensive systems only. How can they be stopping our full attack?" Before anyone could answer, the colony began to change. What had looked like peaceful farming areas suddenly revealed their true nature. The ground opened up and massive weapon platforms rose from hidden underground bunkers. Power levels that should have been impossible for a small colony blazed across every scanner. The pretty residential domes split open like flowers to reveal military command centers. The innocent-looking warehouses unfolded into massive gun emplacements. Even the children's playground turned inside out to become a missile battery. But the real shock came when New Bizon called for help. The human defense force that arrived was nothing like what the galaxy thought humanity possessed. What everyone believed was their pathetic excuse for a military turned out to be just training ships. The vessels that appeared in response to New Bizon distress call were something from nightmare. Ships that moved faster than physics should allow appeared from nowhere. Sleek black vessels that seemed to bend space around them as they moved. Their weapons glowed with energy that made the hegemony fleet look like children playing with toys. Captain Nam Subin commanded the lead human vessel. Her ship looked small compared to the massive hegemony dreadnoughts, but when she spoke, her voice carried absolute authority. "Hegemony fleet, you attacked human civilians without provocation. You have exactly 30 seconds to surrender, or we will demonstrate why that was a mistake." Admiral Morketh tried to laugh again, but the sound stuck in his throat. His sensors were showing impossible readings. The small human ships were generating more power than his entire fleet combined. Their weapons were charged with energy levels that his instruments claimed could not exist. "Destroy them," he screamed, firing everything his fleet possessed. The battle lasted 4 minutes and 12 seconds. Not because the fighting was fierce, but because it took that long for the human ships to disable every single hegemony vessel without killing anyone. The aliens watched in horror as their most advanced weapons simply stopped working when they got close to human ships. Human technology reached out like invisible hands and turned off their engines, shut down their weapons, and locked their airlocks. Their mighty shields collapsed, their targeting systems went blind, and their communications died. All 300 ships found themselves floating helplessly in space, completely at the mercy of beings they had thought were primitive. Captain Nam walked through the corridors of Admiral Morketh's flagship. After her Marines had boarded it, the hegemony crew cowered in terror as she approached the bridge. Her soldiers wore armor that made them look like mechanical demons and carried weapons that hummed with barely contained power. "Admiral Morketh," the Admiral whispered when she entered his command center. "How is this possible? Your species is weak, primitive. You needed our protection." Nam smiled, the same cold smile that Min Jun had shown earlier. "Your mistake, Admiral, was believing that humans needed protection. We have been protecting others while you thought you were protecting us." She gestured to the view screen, which showed the battle aftermath. 300 of the galaxy's most feared warships floating dead in space, defeated by a handful of vessels that officially did not exist. "Galaxy thinks humans are children who need guidance," she continued quietly. They think we are grateful students learning from wise teachers. They have no idea that we have been their guardians for 50 years. Every pirate fleet that mysteriously vanished was destroyed by us. Every space monster that threatened colonies was hunted by human ships. Every energy storm that could have killed millions was redirected. By human technology, we have been cleaning up the galaxy messes while accepting lectures about how primitive we are. Admiral Morketh stared at her in growing horror. You mean nodded slowly. Every species in the galaxy has been living under human protection without knowing it. We let you think you were strong while we did the real work of keeping everyone safe. But why? He whispered. Because we thought it was better to be secret guardians than obvious conquerors. Nam replied, but you just attacked human civilians. So now everyone gets to learn the truth. The news of New Bizen spread across the galaxy faster than light itself. Within hours, every species, every government, every military commander knew that humanity had revealed their true nature. The weak, primitive humans who needed protection had just casually destroyed the most feared military force in known space, and they had done it so easily that it looked like adults disciplining children. The galaxy was about to discover that their favorite pets had actually been apex predators wearing friendly masks, and the masks were finally coming off. Captain Li Dongwook stood on the bridge of his ship called Harmony and watched the alien vessel approach slowly through space. The massive blue and silver ship belonged to the Crystalline Collective, and it was 3 times bigger than his own vessel. But Dongwook did not feel scared or worried. Instead, he felt tired, very tired of pretending. The communication screen flickered and Ambassador Vextar appeared with his forearms waving in excitement. The blue-skinned alien had crystals growing from his forehead, and his voice sounded like music when he spoke, but to Dongwook it just sounded annoying after 50 years of listening to lectures. Good morning, Captain Lee, the ambassador said in his musical voice. I hope you are ready for another lesson about proper space mining techniques. Your species still has so much to learn from us older civilizations. Of course, Ambassador Dongwook replied with a polite smile. We are always grateful for your wisdom and guidance. Please teach us what we need to know. Behind him, Engineer Park, so young, clenched her fists so tight that her knuckles turned white. She had been listening to these condescending speeches for 30 years, and every single word made her want to scream. The aliens treated humans like children who needed constant supervision and correction. It made her sick, but she had to stay quiet and pretend to be impressed. The truth was that Park, so young, could build mining equipment that would make the Crystalline Collective look like they were using stone tools. She had designs in her personal files for machines that could strip mine an entire asteroid in minutes without leaving any waste. Her engines could make their ships move 10 times faster than anything the aliens had ever seen, but she had to keep pretending that their ancient slow technology was amazing communication. Officer Kim Tae-ho sat at his station and nodded respectfully as the ambassador continued his boring lecture about safety protocols that humans had perfected decades ago. Kim had been monitoring alien communications across the galaxy for years, and he knew things that would terrify every species in known space. Humans were not the weak newcomers everyone thought they were. They were the most advanced civilization in the galaxy, and they had been hiding it perfectly. The ambassador droned on about how humans needed to follow proper procedures. When mining near gas giants, Kim knew that human miners had been working inside gas giants for 20 years using technology that the aliens could not even imagine. But humans smiled and nodded and pretended that working near a gas giant was dangerous and difficult. Dr. Yoon Jin entered the bridge carrying a datapad that contained mining reports. The reports were fake, of course real. Human mining operations produced results that would shock the galaxy into panic mode. So humans created false reports that made them look inefficient and struggling. Dr. Yoon had spent her entire career pretending to be impressed by alien science that was centuries behind human achievements. Thank you for sharing your knowledge with us, Dr. Yoon said to the ambassador. We have prepared our mining reports for your review. We hope they meet your standards. The ambassador looked at the reports and nodded approvingly. Your progress is acceptable, though still quite slow. You humans work hard, but you lack the natural abilities that older species possess. Keep practicing, and perhaps in a few more centuries you will reach adequate levels. Dr. Yoon smiled and bowed her head as if accepting criticism. In reality, she was thinking about the human research station hidden in the asteroid belt that had already solved every problem the ambassador was talking about. Human scientists there were working on projects that could reshape entire solar systems, but they had to keep their discoveries secret. Lieutenant Song Ki-tae monitored the weapons systems on the Harmony. The ship appeared to be lightly armed with basic defensive systems that barely met galactic standards for merchant vessels. But hidden beneath false panels and behind holographic projectors were weapons that could destroy the ambassador's massive ship in seconds. The Harmony was not a merchant vessel at all. It was a military scout ship disguised so perfectly that even detailed scans would not reveal its true nature. Every human ship in space was similarly disguised. Cargo vessels that looked slow and clumsy could outrun any alien warship. Passenger liners carried enough firepower to take on entire battle fleets. Research stations that appeared to be studying basic science were actually developing technology that surpassed anything in galactic civilization. But the biggest secret was not about technology or weapons. The biggest secret was about humans themselves. While aliens saw humans as a young species that needed guidance and protection, the truth was very different. Humans had been exploring space for much longer than anyone knew. They had encountered dangers that would have destroyed other civilizations, and they had survived by becoming stronger and smarter. The galaxy was full of threats that most species never saw because humans dealt with them quietly. Massive space creatures that could eat planets were hunted down by human teams using weapons that officially did not exist. Pirate fleets that terrorized shipping lanes found themselves facing human warships that appeared from nowhere and vanished just as quickly. Energy storms that could destroy entire solar systems were quietly redirected by human technology before they could threaten populated worlds. Ancient automated weapons left behind by extinct civilizations were discovered and dismantled by human explorers, who never reported their existence for 50 years. Humans had been the galaxy's secret protectors. While pretending to need protection themselves, they had saved countless worlds and countless lives while accepting lectures about how primitive and helpless they were. The ambassador finally finished his lecture and prepared to return to his ship. "Your species shows promise, Captain Lee," he said with the tone of a teacher praising a slow student. "Keep following our guidance and humanity may eventually become a respected member of galactic civilization." "Thank you, Ambassador," Dong-wook replied. "We will continue to learn from your example." As the alien ship moved away, the crew of the Harmony remained silent until it was completely out of sensor range. Then Kim Tae-ho turned to his captain with a question in his eyes. "Sir," he said quietly, "how much longer do we have to keep pretending?" Dong-wook looked at his crew. These people had spent their entire careers hiding their true abilities. They had pretended to be weak while they were actually the strongest. They had accepted insults and condescension while secretly protecting the very people who looked down on them. His personal communicator chimed with an encrypted message from Earth Command. Kim Tae-ho decoded it quickly, and his face went pale as he read the words, "Sir. The message is from the highest authority. Operation Honest Face has been approved. We are authorized to show them who we really are." The bridge fell completely silent. Everyone understood what this meant. After 50 years of pretending, after half a century of hiding their true nature, humans were finally going to drop the act. The galaxy thought humans were weak, primitive, and harmless. They were about to discover how wrong they had been. Dong-wook looked at his crew, and for the first time in decades he smiled, a real smile, not the polite fake smile he wore for aliens. "Ladies and gentlemen," he said quietly, "the pretending stops now. It is time to show the galaxy what humans can really do." The age of human deception was ending. The age of human truth was about to begin, and the galaxy was completely unprepared for what was coming. With their secret finally revealed, humans faced the biggest choice in their history. They could try to go back to pretending to be weak and hope to rebuild the comfortable lies that had kept the peace, or they could embrace their true nature and reshape galactic civilization completely. Director Lim Hyo-jun sat in the Human Intelligence Command Center deep beneath the surface of Earth, watching data streams from across the galaxy. Fear, paranoia, and confusion were spreading through every species as they tried to understand what human revelation really meant. Some governments were collapsing as citizens demanded to know What else their leaders had been hiding? The decision that would define humanity's future took exactly 37 minutes of debate. Director Lim had spent 40 years preparing for this moment, and he knew there was only one path forward. No more pretending, he announced to his staff. No more hiding, no more accepting lectures from species we surpassed decades ago. If the galaxy wants to fear us, then we will give them reasons to choose cooperation over conflict. The changes began immediately. Human trade ships, which had always followed the slow, safe hyperspace routes that other species used, suddenly began demonstrating their true speed. Cargo vessels that had taken months to travel between systems started completing the same journeys in days. Captain Park Dong-hyun commanded a human freighter that had been carrying agricultural supplies between the core worlds for 15 years. His ship, the Lucky Star, had always appeared to be a typical slow merchant vessel that barely met galactic safety standards. But when Director Lim gave the order to drop the act, Captain Park activated systems that had been hidden behind false panels for his entire career. The Lucky Star revealed itself to be capable of speeds that made the fastest alien vessels look like they were standing still. The cargo ship that had taken 3 months to travel from Earth to Rigel completed the return journey in 4 days. Other merchants who had been traveling the same route for years watched in amazement as the primitive human vessel disappeared into hyperspace using technology that should not have existed. Similar scenes played out across the galaxy as human ships revealed their true capabilities. Passenger liners started offering transit times that were impossible according to known physics. Research vessels began traveling to distant systems that had been considered unreachable, but the speed demonstrations were just the beginning. Human colonies that had seemed small and struggling suddenly revealed their true size and capabilities. New Bizam, which everyone thought was a simple farming settlement, turned out to be a major industrial center that could manufacture enough starships to supply a fleet. Engineer Shin Mi-young worked on the first openly advanced human space station in the Proxima system. What had appeared to be a modest research facility expanded into a massive structure that could house 1 million beings in comfort that surpassed the finest palaces in the galaxy. Alien visitors who came to inspect the station stared in amazement at technology that human children had been building. School projects, gravity generators that could create any environment imaginable, power systems that drew energy directly from nearby stars, materials that could repair themselves and adapt to any condition. But the most shocking changes came when humans began sharing their lesser technologies with smaller, peaceful species. The planet Keth had struggled with diseases that killed thousands every year. Despite decades of galactic medical assistance, they had never found cures for the plagues that swept through their cities. Human medical teams arrived with equipment that could cure any known illness in hours. Dr. Kim Tae-won led the human medical mission to Keth. He had spent 20 years pretending that galactic medicine was advanced while secretly developing treatments that made alien technology look primitive. We can eliminate every disease on your world, he told the Keth Planetary Council. Within 6 months, your people will never suffer from illness again. The Keth leaders thought he was making impossible promises until they saw human medical technology in action. Machines that could repair genetic damage, rebuild organs, and cure conditions that galactic medicine considered terminal worked like magic in human hands. Similar aid missions appeared throughout the galaxy. Species that had lived in poverty for centuries discovered that humans could teach them to harvest unlimited energy from their stars. Worlds that struggled to feed their populations learned agricultural techniques that could turn deserts into gardens. The message was becoming clear: humans were not interested in conquest or domination. They wanted to be partners with those who chose partnership, protectors for those who needed protection, and an overwhelming force against those who preferred aggression. The younger generation of aliens responded with excitement rather than fear. Many had always suspected that humans were more than they seemed, and now they were eager to learn from teachers who were no longer holding back their knowledge. Student exchange programs that had sent alien youth to human schools suddenly became the most competitive opportunities in the galaxy. Young beings who had expected to learn basic skills from primitive humans found themselves studying technology that surpassed anything their own civilizations possessed. But The older established powers were not adapting well to the new reality. The merchant princes of Vega had built their wealth by controlling trade routes and exploiting smaller species. Human ships that could travel faster than anything else in the galaxy threatened to destroy their monopoly. Overnight, Prince Tormalik called an emergency meeting of the Trade Council demanding action against human competition. They are destroying the economic order, he declared. These primitive farmers are using impossible technology to undercut our prices and steal our customers. We must find a way to stop them. What the merchant princes did not understand was that humans had been secretly managing galactic trade for decades. Their profits had only existed because human intervention prevented economic disasters that would have collapsed their businesses when humans stopped hiding their involvement. The true state of galactic commerce became clear. The Vega trade network had been dependent on human support without knowing it. Their warehouses had been supplied by human logistics, their shipping had been protected by human security, and their markets had been stabilized by human economic planning. Some established powers tried to fight the changes. The hierarchy of worlds attempted to ban human technology from their territory, claiming it was too dangerous for civilized species. The result was immediate economic collapse as systems that had been secretly dependent on human support failed overnight. Others tried to steal human technology through espionage and reverse engineering. These efforts failed completely as human security systems were generations ahead of anything galactic intelligence services could penetrate. But the most desperate response came from species that had built their power on being the strongest or smartest in their regions. Human revelation had instantly reduced them from major powers to minor players, and some could not accept the change. Emperor Morthek of the Xanthari Empire spent sleepless nights planning ways to restore his position of dominance. His empire had conquered dozens of species by being stronger and more advanced than they were. Now he discovered that a single human colony could defeat his entire military. The old order was crumbling as species realized that everything they thought they knew about galactic civilization had been wrong. The weak were strong, the primitive were advanced, and the students were actually the teachers. President Nam received daily reports about governments collapsing trade networks, reorganizing an entire species, questioning their place in the galaxy. The revelation of human truth was causing the biggest upheaval in galactic history, but the most dangerous reaction was still coming. Deep in the restricted archives of the ancient Keeper Council, records were being accessed that had not been disturbed for millennia. The Keepers were the galaxy's oldest civilization, and they had weapons that could destroy entire solar systems. They had been sleeping for centuries, convinced that younger species posed no threat to their ancient supremacy, but human revelation had awakened something that should have stayed buried. The galaxy was about to discover that humans were not the only ones who had been keeping secrets, and some secrets were far more dangerous than others. The final confrontation came from the deepest shadows of galactic history. The ancient Keeper Council had ruled the galaxy millions of years ago. Before retreating into hidden worlds and forgotten dimensions, they had watched younger species rise and fall like waves on a beach, never bothering to interfere because nothing could threaten their ultimate power. Humanity revelation changed everything. Elder Keeper Zarthal emerged from stasis after sleeping for 10,000 years to find a galaxy turned upside down. The species he remembered as primitive newcomers had revealed themselves to be more advanced than civilizations that had ruled for eons. The natural order that had existed since the beginning of time was collapsing. This cannot be allowed, he declared to the assembled council in their crystal chambers deep beneath the surface of a dead world. We are the keepers of order, the guardians of stability. These humans threaten everything we have preserved. The council had weapons that made even human technology look simple, devices that could destroy solar systems, erase species from existence, and rewrite the laws of physics across entire sectors. They had hidden these weapons for millions of years, waiting for a threat that justified their use. That threat had finally appeared. Colonel Huang in Ho commanded humanity's deepest intelligence operations, monitoring threats that most humans never knew existed. His sensors detected the Keeper awakening within hours. As ancient facilities came online across the galaxy, "Sir, we have a problem," he reported to President Nam. "The Keepers are activating weapons that predate galactic civilization by millions of years. They have the power to sterilize entire regions of. Space President Nam had hoped this day would never come, but human strategists had prepared for it anyway. The Keepers represented the ultimate test of human capabilities, a species so old and powerful that they considered themselves gods. How long do we have? She asked. Colonel Wang checked his instruments. The weapons will be fully charged in 6 hours, he said. Once active, they can destroy our solar system from halfway across the galaxy. But President Nam smiled, the confident expression that had become humanity trademark. Colonel, the humans have known about Keeper weapons since our first year in space. We have been studying them for 50 years. The truth was even more shocking than anyone imagined. Human exploration of ancient ruins had uncovered Keeper technology decades ago. Instead of using it or revealing it, humans had done something far more clever. They had secretly modified every Keeper weapon in the galaxy. When Elder Zarthal activated the planet killer that had slept beneath Rigel Prime for eons, he expected to see the human homeworld consumed by energies that could crack reality itself. Instead, the ancient weapon produced the most beautiful light show in galactic history. Streams of rainbow-colored energy danced between stars, creating patterns that were visible from thousands of light years away. The weapon that was supposed to end human civilization had been turned into the galaxy's most spectacular fireworks display. Similar scenes played out across known space as every Keeper superweapon activated and produced nothing but harmless beauty. Ancient devices that could have destroyed civilizations created art that took the breath away from every being who saw it. Elder Zarthal stared at his instruments in growing horror as reports came in from Keeper facilities throughout the galaxy. Every single weapon had been compromised. Every devastating device had been turned into something harmless and wonderful. This is impossible, he whispered. How could primitive newcomers have found and modified technology that we hid across the galaxy? The answer came from Colonel Wang, who materialized in the Keeper chamber using teleportation technology that the ancients had never imagined possible. Human soldiers surrounded the council so quickly and quietly that the Keepers never saw them coming. We found your weapons because we have been exploring this galaxy longer than you think, Colonel Wang said calmly. We modified them because we believe in turning instruments of death into sources of beauty. Elder Zarthal looked at the human officer with eyes that had seen the rise and fall of countless civilizations. How long have you been watching us? Since our first day in space, the colonel replied. We discovered your hidden worlds, your sleeping chambers, your secret weapons. We have been quietly protecting them for 50 years while you slept. Revelation broke the last resistance to the new galactic order. Humanity was not just more advanced than current civilizations. They were so far ahead that they could neutralize threats from the galaxy's most ancient powers. The species that everyone had thought were primitive farmers were actually guardians of cosmic peace. President Bai Ra addressed the galaxy for the first time as humanity's true leader. Her words were broadcast to every world, every species, every citizen and known space people of the galaxy. She began speaking with the authority of someone who commanded unimaginable power. I stand before you today, not as the leader of a weak species seeking protection, but as the representative of your guardians. For 50 years, humans have been quietly maintaining galactic peace while pretending to need your guidance. We have prevented wars, stopped genocides, eliminated threats, and protected civilizations that never knew they were in danger. She gestured to displays showing human activities across the galaxy, secret rescue missions that had saved millions of lives, disasters prevented by human intervention, plagues cured by human medicine, wars stopped by human diplomacy. We did this not because we wanted to rule you, but because we believed in protecting those who could not protect themselves. We hid our strength because we thought it was better to be secret guardians than obvious conquerors. The galaxy listened in stunned silence as she explained the new reality. The age of pretense is over, she continued. We will no longer accept lectures from species whose technology we surpassed decades ago. We will no longer pretend that galactic civilization was built by anyone other than human effort. We will no longer hide our true nature, but our goals remain the same: peace, cooperation, prosperity for all species. The only difference is that now, we have the power to guarantee those things. She looked directly into the camera, knowing that her words would reach every corner of civilized space. To those who choose cooperation, you will find no better partners than humanity. We will share our knowledge, our technology, our protection with any species that wants to build a better future together. To those who choose aggression, you will discover why the galaxy's most feared military forces were never a match for human power. We do not seek conquest, but we will not tolerate those who threaten innocent lives. To those who seek to exploit or oppress others, you will learn that humanity has been watching you for 50 years, and we have evidence of every crime you have committed. Justice delayed is not justice denied. The new galactic order was not based on fear of human power, though that power was undeniable. It was based on the understanding that humans had always been using their strength responsibly, even when no one knew. They possessed its species that had spent decades bullying smaller civilizations found themselves facing human peacekeepers who could not be intimidated, or corrupted pirates who had terrorized shipping lanes discovered that human patrol ships had been tracking them for years. Corrupt governments learned that human intelligence services had recordings of every illegal transaction, but the galaxy also discovered what it meant to have humanity as open allies rather than secret guardians. Worlds that had struggled with poverty found human engineers teaching them to build technology that could create unlimited wealth. Species that had been trapped in their home systems received human ships that could carry them to the stars. Children who had faced shortened lives due to genetic diseases were cured by human medical science that seemed like magic. The transition was not easy. Many species took years to adjust to the new reality. Some governments fell as citizens demanded to know what their leaders had been hiding. Others thrived as they embraced partnership with humanity. But one thing became clear across the galaxy: the universe was a much safer place now that humanity had finally stopped pretending to be something they were not. They had spent 50 years proving they could be trusted with ultimate power by choosing not to use it unnecessarily. Now that the masks were off, the galaxy was discovering what it meant to have guardians who had always been protecting them. The age of human deception was over. The age of human partnership had begun, and the galaxy would never be the same.